Do you guys feel what I feel? That kind of creepy feeling?
The creepy willies?
The creepy willies, I like to call them. Do you feel it? Do you get those CWs?
I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it in the air. It's like, you're not talking about the network, right? Not the CW network.
As scary as the CW network.
I mean, because we're talking about similar
Creepy
scares
Willies.
here, possibly.
Creepy Willie network.
Depends how you take it.
Look, I'm telling you, viewership would go up 5,000% if people knew it was the Creepy Willie network. Fuck shut
Do we
up.
know it's not? Does it stand?
They got
right?
rid of the frog, right?
They get rid of the frog. They bring in a killer whale and call it Creepy Willie.
Oh, man. Bones? Just bones jumping over the CW?
Ooh, like a killer whale skeleton.
Yes.
a carcass or-
Just,
yeah.
Oh, God, that'd be so good.
And the kid is like under him, but he's like screaming in horror and going, ah! It's just,
That's a good sci-fi movie.
yeah. Or horror.
I see what you did there.
But yeah, it's movie schmovie.
Yeah.
We're back, baby.
I'm John.
I'm Ron.
You think?
Uncertain.
I'm Steve. I know that I'm
Uncertain.
Steve. I can say that you are Ron. I'm
Thanks.
looking at you.
I needed a confirmation.
Is this episode 240?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
We are on a buttery dinner roll.
You
We're
know,
back on it.
we celebrated the show's 200th episode.
Yeah.
But technically, my 200th episode would have been episode 239. So we missed the boat on that. So maybe tonight you guys can just try to be extra patient and appreciative where I'm concerned.
You know what I'm starting to realize? So, Black Eyed Peas,
Yeah.
they were meh. Fergie came in, and they were the Black Eyed Peas. You are our Fergie. What you gonna do with all that? You can rap. You can do flips.
I'll
you
take
can-
that as a compliment, but
you
I
can
know a
sing.
lot of people that would say the opposite. That, man, Black Eyed Peas were a pretty cool band, and then
Until Fergie.
Fergie came in and they became this
I
like
think
pop
they're
shit.
being silly.
Let's go with the other idea.
Yeah, I don't have a
that.
strong feeling about the Black Eyed Peas one way or the other, so I'll take the Fergie compliment.
You know what's crazy? I would have said that back then,
Mm-hmm.
but have you heard some of the music that's out? It's like nuts. I mean, people are literally just making sounds at this point.
Is that not what we do on this podcast? Just make sounds?
Yeah, we do.
We got a lot of sounds to make tonight. If we've got time at the end of the episode, I would like to talk to you guys for about 3 minutes about my lovely lady lumps.
Okay, that
But-
sounds good. Sounds good.
But for now, let's get into this seasonally appropriate Halloween episode.
Cool.
How you guys? I know I already asked if you're feeling the general creepy feeling, but how's the season been treating you so far?
Excellent.
Yeah.
I just got back from Florida. Mm-hmm. Went to our annual trip down there for Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. So I'm in the mood.
Which one was the best house that you went to?
Man, it's tough. So they had houses for Stranger Things and for Ghostbusters, which were both very cool. Mainly to see those properties in a haunted house. Like, I don't know that they were like great scare houses or haunted houses. You know, it's just some of the scene recreations are just awesome. But there was a Yeti house that I thought was pretty. It was like an original house they did. It was basically like
Was it cold? in
killer.
it?
Yes.
Oh, that's what I figured.
And there was
it
like fake snow and like
Oh, man.
that kind of shit, like that ambiance, and it was kind of a surprise because I thought it was pretty cool. And for those that love Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the '80s cult horror film, they had a house for that this year too. That was awesome.
How was the Us house?
great. You know what? The Us house was up there. It was probably my top 2 or 3.
What?
It's weird though.
What part of it did they capture?
Right, so here's the
That's what I
thing.
was
So
trying to figure out.
it's weird. Some of these like more like I guess I'll say like a lot of the slasher properties that they've done, and more of that like that's more of like a thriller. It is horror, but it's like there's not really like scare sequences that you would have in a haunted house.
Right.
It's more like show me some of the cool scenes. And as you're walking between those scenes, like they're going for the jump scares.
Oh.
So like they're recreating scenes like at the neighbor's house and like
I was wondering
and
about that,
when
that
she
it's-
goes down, into the when she confronts herself at the end, basically, and the rabbits and the visuals are there, and that house was actually pretty. They did a pretty good job with like the scares in that too. But it's just a really cool event. So like I'm
How do
super.
they choose which movies to celebrate? Because it
Seems
seems to
random.
me
It's weird.
Like,
I don't know.
but what I like about that is the randomness. Like when I
Yeah.
hear it, I think it's cool that they're doing something like Us, which seems obvious that you would be doing that this year. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's like a cult movie.
Yeah.
But it's not a movie that's on people's minds right now necessarily. So I mean, I wonder what the rationale is.
It's
for
cool.
that.
Like every year they kind of do like an overall, or they try to do an overall like theme to the event, where like the branding for it, or like the merch for it, or like some of the scare zones. So like they have scare zones that are like the walkways between the houses, where they're still themed, and like they're scaring you there too, trying to.
Wow.
So it's cool. But like this year and even last year, like they kind of really leaned into like the 80s nostalgia of the properties. So, you know, that's Ghostbusters and like Stranger Things, even though it's very current, like they just live in that nostalgia pocket. And Killer Clowns, like, so some of that stuff they're bringing in those greatest hits types things, even though Killer Clowns isn't like a huge property, it has a cult following. And like people are looking for things like that too. Like they do a good mix of like what's now, what's relevant, what was popular back then maybe, or what's grown to popularity from then to now.
Cool.
Which that's a good example of that.
Yeah.
But like they had like a scare zone for Zombieland, you know, and that's in theaters this past weekend, you know, so it's like it's a really cool mix. They usually have like 3, 4, 5 original houses and like about the same amount of like the existing IP. So it's always exciting. Like in the months before it, they kind of just do like a little slow reveal of what they all are, and
It seems to be a
just
big
get people.
deal now. Yeah, like people are
Dude,
very
it is
excited.
insane.
Yeah.
Some of the houses, like the lines were like 2 to 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That you had, like,
Jesus.
which we buy like the express pass that they offer, so we don't have like we kind of have that like fast pass. Yeah. It's stupid expensive, but it's worth it if you want to know you can do all the houses.
Yeah.
And like obviously we want that if we're flying in from Baltimore, but it's an amazing event. I love Halloween. I love the season. I love the weather. I love just the way it looks. I love your street in the fall. Like, I feel like I'm in Haddonfield.
Yeah.
And I know I've told that to you that before, but like it just. The vibe of everything is just like firing on all cylinders for me. And to top it off, my daughter, who is 2, is like obsessed with Halloween.
Oh.
Like she freaking loves.
She's starting to get
scary stuff. Like she she loves Monster House, Paranorman, Coraline. Like she loves like kind of
These are
creepy
great
kids
movies.
stuff.
I think if you start a kid early with
it's
stuff
making me
like
so
that,
happy.
I think if you start a kid early with stuff like that, you will catch them at an age where they will see the fun in it, and they won't.
that's
it
totally
won't be
true.
like morbid or weird or anything that's going to freak them out. Now, I'm not saying at that age no kid would be weird about it
For sure.
But if your kid is drawn to it, you'll probably be fine. I mean, Henry was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
He liked the idea of something being a little creepy or a little scary, maybe even a little more than he could handle. So I was all the time thinking, like, wow, if this movie didn't have nudity or drugs in it, there's a lot of horror movies that he would be fine with watching.
Yeah.
And then last year we started watching some of those, like Halloween and The Shining, and some of the ones where it's like, okay, now you're at an age where I feel like I can say, or I guess it was earlier this year, because he was 11 already. And yeah, he's never been weird. I mean, he may have had a night or two where he was weird about going to bed, and he clearly was saying kind of like, I'm kind of weirded out tonight. I want someone to come to bed with me.
Yeah.
But of course, for many years, there was someone reading to him or hanging out with him before he fell asleep anyway.
Sure.
But he also would just go up and say, I'm tired, and go to sleep by himself after watching something creepy, which when I was his age, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
So we may be sort of inoculating them at an age that makes them able to enjoy, like I said, the sort of roller coaster ride aspects of a horror scenario without being the way I was when I was 12 or 13 and watching Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, and actually kind of had to talk myself down from thinking like this could be real. If I fall asleep tonight, something fucked up could happen to me. I think if you start them early and you can see that they like that, they get a charge from it. You're probably not gonna overstep too much.
No, it's exciting, and just all that together, and knowing that we were going to get back together to do this episode, it's kind of like a nice. I like it a lot. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, you guys want to jump in?
Let's do it.
We have a few topics to get to, and the way we're going to do it is very seasonally appropriate.
I was wondering what the McDonald's is. That a McDonald's bucket?
This probably came from McDonald's many years
Maybe.
ago.
It looks like one. Remember those old ones?
But this is like you reach in and you get a piece of candy. But you may notice if you get a piece of candy, each piece of candy has a little slip of paper attached to it. You know me, I love my.
Is
slips
this a
of
trick
paper.
and a treat?
It's like a treat and food for thought. So it's food for your belly and food for your mind.
Gotcha.
But it's spooky food.
Man.
All right. Wow. I'm excited.
So who's gonna go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
Oh, damn. Oh, milky.
Oh, you don't like the milky?
I can't. My
Okay,
butt
well,
will explode. But
I
I will
actually-
give these candies to you.
I actually thought, I wonder what Ronald can eat.
If you were a classic slasher villain, what would your weapon of choice in origin story be? That's a good question. Mine would be a frying pan.
That's your weapon of choice?
That's my weapon of choice.
That's like a long death. Like if that's how you're.
Yeah.
It's not an instant.
It's not at all. That's what I kind of love about it.
Wow, we need to talk about that later. Just
this is not my story.
Continued pain.
But I imagine
this tells me a lot about you.
I imagine a situation where the kid's cooking and he's in an abusive situation because he could have that sad backstory, and the abusive mom, while he's cooking some eggs, she's like, "This isn't good enough," and she takes the frying pan and hits him with it, and then he wakes up really late at night, and then he's like, "No one will ever hit me again.
My eggs were fine.
My eggs were fine."
You said over easy.
And then he just kills everybody like
Damn.
that. Every time somebody is cooking and you can't let it go for 7 ticks.
Yeah.
And it's 7 ticks, he'll be there.
Is it like a gas stove?
Yeah.
You're going for the little pilot?
Gas stove required.
You got the pilot?
So
if I just buy an electric stove,
you'll be fine. You know
in the
they have
clear.
electric ones that make those weird sounds. Just,
I didn't know
just
that,
for like
but I believe you.
nostalgia.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly people with gas stoves go get killed. Gas man.
So not the frying pan killer, but Gas Man.
Yeah, gas man.
That's his name.
That's his bad. Stop.
This is perfect for you, Ronald.
There's like longevity for this project where it can spin off into
gas man.
He's got another whole alter ego.
I thought Gas Man's origin was he ate a milk chocolate candy.
This is the origin story right here. Him eating the candy he just picked, and he becomes Gas Man.
Gas Man.
We are his first victims.
Yep.
How many movies do you think are in the Gas Man series?
Trilogy.
A trilogy?
Ooh. Trilogy.
Solid trilogy.
Yeah.
Like a 3-piece frying pan set.
The last one is Gas Man 3, the final dish.
Final dish.
Final dish. Dish of destruction.
You wouldn't go like appetizer, entree, dessert. You wouldn't go for the standard course meal.
So there's 7 ticks, right?
7 ticks.
So would he ever come in like wisecracking, like Freddy style, and be like tick, 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 dick, and then kill the guy with the frying pan?
I think
kill him in the dick. He'd hit him in the dick.
His dick sometimes materializes into a stick like that.
So he's kind of like a funny guy, like Freddy. Yeah.
Gas man.
What about you, Steve? What do you think your serial killer would be?
God knows.
Your slasher killer would be?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, if this isn't Schmovie Studios and I'm just answering this straightforward,
yes,
I gotta be honest. Like,
I'd like to say we have right of first refusal of any slasher
that goes
projects
without
that you create.
Yeah.
But like Spielberg, he founded DreamWorks, but he was still working with other studios.
Sure. Keep it.
A lot of people want that Steve flavor. We know that.
I don't know, man. The first thing that always comes to mind when I think of the slasher flicks and the weapon, for me, it's always Freddy's glove. Mm-hmm. You know, like so something that creative where it's super functional. He doesn't really have to carry it on him. It's like on him. You know, and it's like it's a hand basically. So I don't know what mine would be like, but something similar to that. Like I don't know if it would be something still with a hand, but some other kind of weapon on it. I'm looking at your pencils and they look really sharp.
They are. They're freshly sharpened.
Maybe something like that, like where I could have multiple very, very sharp pointed things on there, not just like sharp like a knife. But yeah, something that and that's the other thing too is that like there are like multiples of it.
Oh, okay.
You know, more than one thing on it. So I like the idea of maybe I would go with some sort of pencil. Maybe I'm like some sort of like
what was his what?
Maybe I'm like a substitute teacher and these kids.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like these kids and coming from a substitute teacher background.
Yeah.
They just don't fucking listen. And if I say sit down when you're sharpening that pencil, I know you're not sharpening that pencil anymore. You're just fucking with me at this point.
Yeah.
So,
they think you don't remember what it was like being
obviously.
a kid and how long it took to sharpen a pencil.
I've sharpened many pencils.
Yeah. I can tell this. I just look at you and I'm like, that guy,
He has sharpened his fair share.
Sharpened pencil.
So maybe that's something, like
Yeah.
I'm done, man. I like the high school setting. It can be around homecoming or something like that. I'm just done. Football game.
It's fucking
Dance happens. It's a great opportunity. Just massive attack. I'm going after all these kids that have screwed me over.
He's killing kids.
Lead poisoning.
What's your name?
Look at that. Second level right there. Lead poisoning.
Lead poison.
Not only are you dead, but most likely, I don't know
Lead
how old the
poison.
pencils have to be, because do these new pencils still kind of have any chance of giving them lead poisoning?
I don't know.
They're
It's a
definitely,
real shame if they don't.
Yeah, I mean,
they're definitely gluten free.
well, then I'm definitely finding lead-heavy pencils that also have gluten in them.
Oh
Because
shit!
I'm getting all those kids.
People are gonna swell up and explode.
What about better off lead
If the
before
lead-
dawn?
There you go. Hey, look at this. This is this is it right here, man. There's a whole. I'm going beyond 3. I'm going for like the Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
I'm going long. I'm going like decades.
You're going from one studio to another. and
I'm
they're
going to bounce from New Line to
reboot
Paramount
and
get into a
reimagine.
legal battle over
Yeah.
who owns the rights to the original script.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going
man.
true. I'm going with Freddy Weapon Attack, but Jason in terms of how complicated my franchise is going to
Gotcha.
get 20 years or 30 years after inception.
That sounds pretty.
But
cool.
yeah, so
So frying pans, pencils, they're
Yeah.
dangerous things to have around. When I think about the inciting incident, I think that's key to what causes you to become
Absolutely.
a killer.
Sure.
Like, Freddy, Jason, even Michael Myers, who was more mysterious, we still know what that first moment was when
Sure.
he became a killer. Although someone brought up something about Jason, just a quick aside here. The period between the first Friday the 13th and the second one, where he goes, his mother is the killer in the first one. Spoilers for Friday the 13th out there if you're listening. And then she dies. Everyone thinks he's dead. She dies, and at the end he jumps up out of the lake, right? What was he doing in that interim if he wasn't dead? What was he doing in that interim where his mom thought he was dead for all that time? I think that's like from the late 50s into the 70s or something. So for about 20 years or 12 years, somewhere in there was a long period of time where he was alive, presumably lurking around the lake, and his mother thought he was dead. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's ever addressed the sort of lost teen years of Jason. I think you ought to. Someone needs to write that movie like Swamp.
he wasn't just like
Swamp
alive
Kid.
at the bottom of the river. I mean, of the lake.
Or was
maybe?
he down there
Like he was like I think like Frog Boy or something, like just kind of living an amphibious lifestyle underwater.
I mean, they sure don't explain that.
Yeah.
But maybe so.
Maybe.
I mean,
She thought he was dead, but he's really just
a beautiful
turned into
film
an
of him
amphibian.
just swimming around in murky water would be a nice thing.
Backstrokes.
But anyway, I think it's got to have something to do with this remodel, right? It's got to be like something
sure.
to do. There's like a guy who's tired. He's fed up with contractors
Oh man.
Ooh.
who've
I
been
like this.
telling him stories, and so he has like a murder house where he just calls contractors to come out of course, there would be a point where he goes from punishing bad contractors. Maybe he looks up on the Better Business Bureau site or something like that where you can see where people have given bad reviews. He lurks in these houses and he lures these bad contractors out to kill them with, I don't know. My one thought would be he prints out a schedule or a contract and he actually uses that to kill them. So it's like a death by paper
works.
cut. He kills them
You're
with
gonna
a
be
schedule.
killing a lot of contractors.
Well, I mean, if
'Cause
he
you
uses
kill
that-
the bad ones first.
Yeah.
I'd say. 10,
But there's always that point
15,000.
where it curdles and it spills over into, well, now he's just killing everybody.
people, yeah.
And just anybody he finds out as a contractor, he's luring them out to one of these places. But I think it would have to be something, I don't know, something simple like the customer or something like that. And the tagline would have to be like, here's a quote for you, you're dead.
I like that.
It's good.
And then the guy's like, no.
But a slow paper cut that I guess I have to saw back and forth. It's pretty gruesome. It's very
So in
bloody.
the tagline, who's providing the quote?
I think that's, taglines are mysterious things sometimes,
Yeah.
Steve.
There's always somebody in the town that knows all of the stories about the killers. So.
Yeah.
Then you got to go to the library where there's a piece about you killing people.
There's like a book with the history of
There's
it.
always a book in the library.
Yeah.
That is such a crazy trope that's done in every movie. Let's go to the library and do some research. It says here
Yeah.
in 1985.
We've talked about this before. Also, the librarian who happens to know, or the person who
Yes.
works in the file room at the
Yes.
police station or whatever it is, who happens to know everything about the mysterious case.
And they often interrupt the conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know. You're talking about the customer.
Yeah. What you talking about over there?
You're talking about the customer. You don't want to look into it.
Oh, there would be someone from one of the organizations that like is one of the watchdog because
they run Angie's List.
Yeah, like but
hello, sponsorship.
I was about to say Angie's List could definitely sponsor this.
Yes,
because that's how you find
Angie's in this movie.
The real high quality contractors. I got news for you. You'll be sorry you ever did that.
I imagine like the Halloween theme, but played on like a Fisher Price keyboard. He just very it's so good. Just like somebody pounded on the keyboard.
But yeah, so that's like I don't know how long that series would go though. I think that I feel like it's one of those that it does okay, but then there's like 6 direct-to-video sequels that are like a lower budget every time. You know, like kind of like the way the Candyman series went, where every time maybe the ideas get bigger, but the budget gets smaller, and so it just goes from being an interesting movie to just utter schlock.
So let me pitch you on something. How about this? If you stick with something as generic as the customer, how about we go for this is an anthology? Mm-hmm. So each entry is a different customer getting back at that business, service provider, whatever. Let's go beyond contractors.
Yeah.
Let's get out into the world and do anything like that has a customer, but that has been screwed.
Oh, so it's like a true anthology where the next movie would be like a different customer getting screwed. But how about like midway into the movie, or maybe even in the third movie, they go and they encounter some guy who like lives under a bridge or something. And it's like, who is that? And you recognize it's John from the first
part
movie.
One.
Yeah,
from
part one. And he now has completely given in.
I get that.
But I get to a weird point where now I'm afraid of all paper. Because I see it as so dangerous, you know. Like I've changed even more. But either way, I think there's room for on our development slate. We got to be like Blumhouse or something. We got to focus on horror of a certain budget and turn a profit. So we got Gas Man. We've got, what was yours called?
You just gave me the sequel names. Oh. Better Off Lead.
Yeah.
Better Off Lead is so
Lead
real.
Before Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
This is good.
I enjoyed that.
And the customer. Your turn,
And
Steve.
the customer.
Better Off Lead.
Oh no! It should be like.
I mean, but you want this one?
It should be.
I've got the special darks that were in this bag. Would you like a special dark, Ronald?
What's a special dark?
That's the dark chocolate Hershey's.
You can't have anything with milk in it.
I think that's non-milk.
Yeah.
It has no milk in it?
I don't know if it's got no milk.
You can probably Google it on your smartphone.
What's it called?
Yeah. Special dark.
This is good. Scariest horror movie location.
Ooh.
I like it.
Like actual location. So I guess
Does this mean like from an actual movie we're saying a specific location, or just in general like I like them when they're at like a high school? What are we thinking?
I guess you could be general, but I would think be specific about a particular movie or a particular scene even that was like a creepy location.
Wow.
I've got one that is not even a movie that I like, but I think about this location all the time.
What is that? Let me hear.
That is at the end of the film. I think it was just called Blair Witch.
Oh yeah.
That house.
Yes.
When they're inside that house, and it's got like the weird doors and the small hallways.
Yeah.
And the you're going. It's winding and confusing, and it keeps you. It's like a nightmare house where you go in and you would get lost. But it's that combination of rustic, worn down old building in the woods and Portal to Hell or something like that.
Yeah.
That, like, honestly, with that movie being as iffy for me as it was, I frequently think about how creepy that last, 5 minutes was. And I think it had a lot to do with the set design of the house.
Not the best movie, but House of Wax.
Ooh, that's good.
Jesus, man,
I was just talking about that movie recently.
You remember that scene where that man put his finger up?
Yeah.
He just chopped that shit off like it was nothing. He's like, what was that?
Wow.
House of Wax,
That's a
man.
cool one too, man.
I thought that was such an underrated movie.
That's so weird. We literally had this conversation on my vacation. We
Really?
were talking about House of Wax. That it's like it's super campy and fun. But
It's campy and
yeah,
it's just
people
one of those.
slept on that movie.
You'll never forget. It's one of those weird movies.
People really liked it because Paris Hilton
I was gonna say
dies a horrible death in it. I mean, honestly, I believe when she was cast in that role,
it was because of that.
it was like Schadenfreude. It was like, and even she was in on that to some extent, saying like, "I'm playing this character. It's going to remind you of me."
I'm thinking like, if somebody was going to answer this, like truly like going for the answer that people are expecting somebody to say, won't they say like the Overlook Hotel or something? That's like that's the answer, one. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the one that popped in my mind first, I don't know if it's my favorite or scariest, but the one that immediately comes to mind, and it's not even like straight up horror, but the movie The Descent. The cave system in that movie.
Yeah.
I've never felt claustrophobic, really generally, in my life, especially watching a movie. But that film, when they're going through those caves and those tunnels and you know, you're starting to introduce those creatures, beyond the creatures, just the freaking caves, like your body going through something that barely fits your body, done. I'm out. Like that did not look good. And it just was super creepy. The lighting and just the way they lit it and like the water like drips and like running down the wall. Like I just found that all the sequences, which is pretty much the whole movie, in those caves in that film, it stayed with me. And I found that to be super creepy and super scary before you even get into the real, you know, like scary stuff of that film. So like that's one that comes to mind.
Another
immediately
underrated movie.
Totally. And I'm thinking of it because you know, talking about house like underrated ones.
And then like space was really important, and you would see something coming towards them in another tunnel. You're like, oh, they're heading towards that.
Right.
You know, a movie that had a similar thing, but not quite the same, was As Above, So Below.
I was thinking the catacombs.
Just the idea of those catacombs, similar to what I was saying about the house in Blair Witch, where it really is a maze of nightmares. And
I wanted to see that movie.
I think it's kind of underrated. I enjoyed it.
It's definitely underrated. Yeah, it's good.
I've always wanted to see it. I'd never.
It's like one, you know, you would dig it for
sure.
And
I'm thinking of another one too that actually would be a great location for them to build for the Horror Nights thing that you go to. It would be the Evil Dead cabin.
They did Evil Dead there.
Where you can even walk down into the basement.
3 or 4 years ago, great house.
Like the cellar of that's a creepy
outside
location.
The cabin. Like they did an amazing job on that house.
Because that's one where every detail would kind of be like, you would see it and go, "That's exactly right." You know, like
totally.
There's so
and
much.
Like Cabin in the Woods, they did a house for that like 4 or 5 years. That's one of my favorite ever, because like they have the outside classic horror, you know, in the woods, and then when you get into the system that what that movie opens up to be,
they had that stuff,
dude. Okay, sidebar: the best sequence in a horror house I've ever been in, a haunted house I've ever been in. They had the scene where you're in that hallway and the elevator doors open and every monster you can think of comes at you. They had that scene in the house.
That's so cool.
And the way our line timing worked out, we landed right in the middle of that scene when the doors open.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was
that's so great.
Phenomenal. Like, best sequence ever in a haunted house. It was so cool. So cool. But yeah, that Evil Dead house was awesome. And you're right. It lends itself so well. It's super iconic. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
But yeah, you should watch it As Above, So Below. I think you'd like that.
What were you about to say though, Ronald? I think you had a thought a second ago.
I really like that movie, Cabin in the Woods.
I
like that movie a lot. I've seen it a couple of times. I didn't think about how many times I've seen it.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan. I've definitely stuck around on that.
As Above.
I chose the Crackle. I didn't really mean to, but that's Crackle's what I got.
I've never come around to Crackle.
Really?
I don't know, man.
Peanuts in it, right?
No.
No, that's just.
It's like those little rice things.
Right? It's like the Nestle.
Okay.
I feel like when I was younger, I had one and it made me sick, and I've just kind of like never forgiven it. Was that the question or the Crackle?
I am a Crackle enthusiast, but this is question. This one involves paper. Take one and pass it down, Ronald. Now, I don't know if we should even give a pencil to Steve.
Yeah, like, did you not learn?
All right. So you might want to jot these down as I read them, because this is going to affect everyone's future. What film series should we do a future episode around?
Okay.
Final Destination, Hellraiser, Leprechaun, Prom Night, Puppet Master, Saw, Scream, or the Ernest films?
And we are ranking these in order?
Put them in order from the one you want to do the most to the one
I think
you
I
want
missed
to
one.
the one you want to do the least. Okay, I'll read them again.
There's 8. Do you have 8?
Final Destination, Hellraiser, Leprechaun, Prom Night, Puppet Master, Saw, Scream, The Ernest Canon.
One being the best.
One being the best, yes.
You said there were 8? I have 7.
You got 7?
Of course you know.
Well, that's fine. We can probably still work a ranking out of that.
You can make the other one the 8th.
Right.
Because this definitely wasn't any of the ones.
All right, now you guys give me just a minute to figure out the math.
One of them is a series I've been trying to get us to watch for years. For goddamn years.
Saw?
Yeah. Talk about the best series ever.
I'm excited to see their little reboot sequel, whatever that's going to become.
That has like Chris Rock involved?
And Sam Jackson? But it's being directed by the guy that did like Saw 3? Or Saw 2 and 4? I don't know.
I enjoyed
He
1
did
and
some
2.
of the sequels.
Yeah, I enjoyed 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And it's,
But it's interesting, though, that they went back to somebody who's already done the property.
That's
and
really
not
cool.
like... Well, it is, that is cool. It's both sides of it. I would think that if they were trying to do something entirely different...
Yeah.
Not entirely different, but like their own spin, you might bring in someone that maybe would bring a new aesthetic or a new look to it, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, Chris Rock being like stoked on getting a Saw movie greenlit and into production, and it's like coming out this coming fall or something, right? Or this year, 2020. It comes out 2020. But that's crazy, though.
Yeah, that is crazy. I'm excited about it. I mean, I'd love to see some more horror stuff. It just feels like we're kind of getting the same sort of stuff over and over and over again. So it'd be nice to see some horror stuff.
It's been I think it's been a pretty good year. Like,
has it?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, not a bad year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
That's
it's
also
how
not
far you want to take horror. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anything has been like amazing. I don't
I
think.
haven't seen scary movies to tell in the dark or whatever.
Scary stories. Yeah, I like that. I thought that was good.
It just came out on VOD or
It's
whatever.
it's good. It's not great. Like it's not really horror, but thriller. But like I loved Ready or Not. That was really good.
I didn't see Ready or Not.
I think you'd really like that. But
I also didn't see Midsommar,
Midsommar.
which I need to sit down and watch.
Yeah, you should.
All right. The results are.
Did we just like contract Price Waterhouse Cooper for this?
Yeah.
To count this for us? Did we kind of get him on like a retainer, or what's going on there?
Since there was no Schmovie Awards episode this year, Price Waterhouse Schmooper has actually been kind of falling on hard times. Everyone there has taken on like multiple part-time jobs to keep things going. So they were very excited to be able to send out a representative tonight to do the tallying, and so that means me. But no, we're very excited. I'm gonna go from the one that performed the least to the one that performed the best. Performed the best. Maybe not surprising, Ernest was the lowest rated option. We'll return to this. I do think there's a case to be made that an episode about Ernest could...
I'm
An
down.
episode, sure.
Yes.
But if we're going through all the films, don't know that it's...
Maybe
And
an
I love me
appreciation
some
of Jim
Ernest.
Varney in general is
Love
probably...
Ernest films.
Varney Schmarney should be an episode, but not this time. Then at episode number 7... Okay, I'm sorry. I got tied for second to worst place, Prom Night and Hellraiser. Coming in a little bit ahead of that, Leprechaun. Next up, my number one. I'm very curious about this series, but I understand there's about 20 films in it, so I can see not wanting to watch it, but Puppet Master did not make the cut.
Okay.
Up from that, we have a tie between two films, or two series, Final Destination and Saw. Or Final Destination and, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I've got that right. Yes, Final Destination and Saw. Mm-hmm. And the winner, if you've been doing the math, is the Scream series.
Oh, God.
We'll be doing an episode about Scream. But Ronald, you numbered it pretty highly.
Yeah, it's so easy. Because those aren't shitty movies.
We don't have to do shitty movies, do we? I don't even know that I would say any of these are shitty movies, but the quantity of if we want to go to
the shit factor goes up as the quantity goes up in most cases.
These are like coveted. This is a coveted series. It's not like
well, it might be fun to look. We did that with what series did we do? We've done this for the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
We've done this for the Fast and Furious movies. We've done it for Candyman.
We have to. We fucking have to do this for Terminator. We gotta do it. We gotta do it when Dark Fate comes out.
Well, we're doing a robots episode.
Yeah, but
there's a little tip off to everybody listening.
I need you to see Terminator
2. After Dark Fate comes out, maybe we can do sort of a retrospective on that. Yeah. But I haven't seen what was the last one, the last Terminator film.
Oh, Genesis? Was it Genesis? Not Genesis. The one with Arnold, but they had like a CGI.
I don't even remember.
I think that was Genesis. That was Genesis.
That's Genesis.
Yeah, Genesis.
The one before that was the one with Christian Bale. But so, at a future date, we'll do the Scream series. There's only 4 movies, right? So that at least makes it pretty manageable.
That'll be easy to...
Yes.
You know what, though? I'm feeling like it's interesting how things have kind of changed a little bit over the years in terms of, like, parody and stuff like that. I'm curious to see how we feel about them now versus, that's your movie series.
That's my movie.
But... watching it now sometimes can,
Yeah, things change.
Yeah, we age, and
I think
you may love it. You may love it more now than any.
Well, I know I still love them, but I just even, for example, know that when I first saw Scream 4, I remember walking out feeling like I didn't love it, but as time went on and I watched it again and again, like I kind of picked up on a little more that it was saying about the genre, similarly to like how it was almost parodying the parodies of Scream. You know what I mean? Like it began to like look back on the genre in a way that was like, Scream became like iconic, but then everything in the genre was trying to either do what Scream did as good enough to be in the theater, or, make fun of it, or say, well, that's not all that had to be said. What about this stuff? So like Scream 4 then took that and like that whole opening sequence when it's like inceptioning these like movies and movies and movies that are like making fun of all the horror movies / being super meta. It kind of grew on me a lot more over the years. Kind of like, Wes Craven also did with New Nightmare.
Right.
Like that kind of over the time has kind of become more beloved because of what it was saying about not just that franchise, like much like Scream 4 is doing about Scream, but about just horror movies, slasher flicks in general. But that's exciting. Like I definitely picked that as number 1, but
no, I think you're right that talking about how that series came in and influenced horror so strongly for such a period, but also was a thing you can only do once, really. And the fact that it had sequels means that they have to find ways to kind of push that formula once you've pointed out the sort of man behind the curtain of this genre.
Right.
And now, yes, people are delving back into the more sincere side of it. It's not like for a while it was hard to make a straight slasher film after Scream, and now you see that all the time. So, all right, Ronald, you want to dip into the candy dish and pull out something else you can't eat?
Yes.
I apologize.
That's fine. I smell so smoky because of these smoky horror franchises 1, 2, and 3. Pick a great part 1, a great part 2, and a great part 3.
So from 3 different horror franchises, pick one that may have peaked with 1, one that may have peaked with 2, and one that may have peaked with 3, or just great ones.
Oh.
Halloween, the first one is definitely the best one. I would argue that Friday the 13th Part 2 is the best of those. And I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3
that's actually what
is the best of that series. So I would go Halloween for 1, Friday for 2, and Freddy for 3. Dream Warriors.
Saw 1 for me. Evil Dead 2. And Freddy 3. I mean, I remember... because we were marathoning Evil Dead. I was like, okay, Evil Dead 1 was crazy. And then the second one came. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
No, you're right. That actually is
a really good movie.
That may be the best answer of all time. Evil Dead 2 is one of my...
It's so good.
It leads... It's got to be in the top 3 most rewatched movies for me.
It's a good movie.
I mean, but there was a period of time when I was kind of coming into being a buff of just movies and the behind the scenes, like how they made it, and becoming fascinated with the filmmakers back in high school. And I think Sam Raimi really struck a chord with me, and we must have watched that movie I feel like I've told you guys this before. It was like every day after school, I had friends I would hang out with, and we would kind of indoctrinate someone else. We would get them to come watch Evil Dead 2 because it's a fun movie to kind of see someone react to because you've never seen a movie like that before, you know. So that's a good answer, Ron. What about you, Steve?
Probably influenced by our prior question. Yeah. I'm going to say Scream. I'm going to say Final Destination 2 and Nightmare 3. Final Destination 2...
Is that the one with the sheet of glass landed on the...
This is the one that basically gave everybody of a certain generation fear of driving next to a truck hauling logs.
Didn't I feel like I saw that in the movies with you or something, man.
I don't know. I don't think we saw that in the... Did we? I don't even want it to come out. But that one... The first two of that series, I think, are purely enjoyable horror films. Like, I love them both.
Yeah.
But that one, the idea of, like, again, you're talking about, like, you can only do that once, but you got to figure out a way to, like, up it a little bit or make it different.
Yeah.
And I just, for that alone, because not a day or experience goes by where I see that on a truck and I don't think of that movie immediately and also have a fear of that truck.
Yeah.
Of that fucking log falling off the truck onto me. Mm-hmm. So I'll give the kudos to Final Destination 2 for that reason alone. But yeah, then Nightmare 3, yeah, I mean, it's the best of the series.
Nightmare 3, big winner.
For sure.
Next time we do a
Dream
rally...
Warriors.
Next time we do a rally of movie series, I guess we'll have to put Nightmare on Elm Street on there and get it in the running.
Man.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to... Again, this is one of those things, like, I haven't watched those in a really long time, so it'd be good to...
Well, what's cool about seeing a series over time is the way that the times change the series, or the series tries to keep up with the times. And Nightmare on Elm Street definitely had a period where it went from being this underdog weird thing to something that people loved, that Freddy was the star. And then within a couple movies after that, say like by the time Part 5 came out, it was starting to feel like a parody of itself.
Yeah.
And then I don't think it ever got the juice back quite. I think Freddy's or Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I haven't seen that in years. I wonder how it would play for me. Now, I remember really being impressed with it at the time for being such a bold choice. And then he did Scream years later. It seems like he's a guy who, or was a guy, rest in peace, who thought about the sort of meta aspects of the genre a lot. Yeah. But no, I would be interested in seeing all those movies again too. I feel like the first 2 or 3, maybe 4, are the ones that I've seen more on replay, and then after that, the movies get a little. Like 5 and 6, I barely have much of a concept of.
5 was Freddy's Dead?
I think Freddy's Dead was 6. And then there was the remake that I never saw. So
that's supposed to be terrible. I still haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm. It's terrible.
And it's trying to make another one, right? I keep hearing that they keep...
They should.
They should. It's time.
I would love that so much.
It's time, man.
I would love them to just get the Jason and or Friday the 13th and Nightmare going again. I mean, Halloween's, they got it. I like the new Halloween reboot and the fact that they're shooting 2 sequels back to back. Side note, let's like take a trip to Charleston together because they're shooting those movies there right now, back to back. Go down there guerrilla style. Maybe get Danny McBride on the podcast. David Gordon Green.
He like moved down there.
He lives there.
Like, make all this.
And when you say guerrilla style, you mean like let's rent some gorilla costumes?
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah,
have you seen The Righteous Gemstones?
Obsessed with it. It's incredible.
No one's talking about it, and it makes me furious because it is the best. I think there are funnier ones that he's done. This is the best.
The most well-rounded, for sure.
Yeah, it's the best.
And something that could be a show for many seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I want them to have like a church that they're battling or something like that they're competing against.
That cast is incredible, too.
Incredible. And it kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, anybody hasn't watched Righteous Gemstones.
Righteous Gemstones.
But yeah, like they live there. Danny McBride, David Gordon Green, Jody Hill. I don't know if Jody Hill lives there, but they all live in Charleston.
Yeah, I saw.
Which is why they shoot like everything around it, like whether it's in Wilmington, Charleston, Myrtle Beach. Like every show they do is there, which is great. But I just figured, it's fall, it's Halloween. They're shooting Halloween. Charleston's only an hour flight. Let's do this, guys.
I feel like if we reached out to him. With us, it's here enough.
Let's make it happen.
Let's get it.
Jamie Lee? I don't even know. Maybe we get Jamie Lee. I don't know. Just gonna put it out there.
That'd be nuts.
All right, Steve, you want to?
Yeah. Mix it up a little bit. Go for some straight chocolate. Most necessary / successful horror remake. Least necessary successful horror remake.
We were just talking about remakes. How convenient.
Most necessary.
Necessary or successful, just meaning whatever your standard is for the best. Whether you think it needed to be remade or whether you think it just was a successful job of remaking something. Like whatever your standard for what a good remake is.
Well, two come to mind. I'm going to say them both. Because I'll probably get shit for it because I prefer them over the originals. Texas Chainsaw and Dawn of the Dead.
Texas Chainsaw,
the remake.
The one with Jessica Alba?
Yeah. Not Jessica Alba.
Biel.
Jessica Biel. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those two, I don't know. Like I've always been like embarrassed of that a little bit because like I just no, not in my opinion, but the fact that I did not take to those films the way most people take to them.
Oh, right.
That like Dawn of the Dead and Texas Chainsaw are like big, huge classic horror films that horror buffs like worship. And while I respect them, they're among like the 3 or 4 that like I just did not connect with when I eventually saw them. Whether that's because the hype was too big, or it just didn't get me at the right time. Like Exorcist was also in that for me. I don't love The Exorcist, or I don't dislike it. But those two remakes, Texas Chainsaw and Dawn of the Dead, just style, not style over substance, but it just had style. At that time. You're talking about 2 very stylistic directors, Marcus Nispel and Zack Snyder, making these films that are reboots, remakes, whatever.
Zack Snyder with a James Gunn script, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. I don't know who wrote the Texas... not that that's for the script, but just the visuals, the casting is great. Jessica Biel, R. Lee Ermey in there as the sheriff.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
And I just love both. Also... Love Jonathan Tucker. He's in that movie too. And the opening shot of the bullet through the head and the camera goes out and inside the van. Cool. It's style, but I still found the movies to be extremely scary and Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead I love. Like I just think it's great. So those two I think are probably the most successful for me in terms of my like for them.
Yeah.
And I'll go and say probably the worst one for me because of how much I love the originals is probably Nightmare on Elm Street. Something just, there's so much that doesn't work in Nightmare on Elm Street, but the most important to me, the fact that Freddy is so botched in that movie. Not even the performance by Jackie Earl Haley.
Yeah.
Because he's doing something interesting, the performance, but just the physical, like the CG face or the weird makeup / CG stuff almost looked like an alien. Like that stuff really, really bothered me.
I think they were very proud of themselves for creating a sort of realistic burn victim look. But I think that's a very delicate balance. I think Freddy is scary and creepy, and he does kind of look like a pizza, more so than an actual burned person. Yeah. But I think that helps you watch that movie without feeling weird feelings. I don't think, you know what I mean? I think Freddy's supposed to be creepy and disturbing to look at, but not like genuinely mortifying to look at. And I think that maybe they were trying. I just remember when that movie came out that I read somewhere that they were talking about the design. They were so proud that they had made it look, more unsettling. But I think if he's too unsettling or just weird to look at, he doesn't have the character.
Yeah.
It's a little weird the way Freddy kind of became a hero anyway to that series because he's like a child molesting murderer,
Yeah.
They kind of gloss over that, but that's the idea. So I think in the new movie, didn't they lean into that too? At least I heard that about the origin, that they actually really explicitly stated what was just implied in the earlier movies. But all right. Well, I'm going to say best. That Dawn of the Dead is a hard one to beat, but I'm going to say The Thing is maybe the most successful remake. Yeah. And then least successful...
Carpenter's remake.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not the one that came out, the prequel that came out a few years ago, but Carpenter's remake
of a prequel
of Thing from Another World. Yeah, I actually like the one thing I liked about that Thing remake. It's so annoying that they just called it The Thing, though.
Yeah.
Friend of the show Bob Rose hates that. How many movies come out that have the same name? Like he doesn't mind remakes. He just thinks you should do something to the title to make it less confusing to talk about, so you don't have to say like the year. But my favorite thing about that Thing, what seemed like a Thing reboot, was the fact that in the last 5 minutes, even the style of the footage, it matched up so well with the first movie. I thought that was a neat trick. Yeah. However, we didn't need that movie at all, So that would be the John Carpenter Thing is my most successful. Least, I'm going to go with the Black Christmas remake. Black Christmas is one of my favorite slashers, if not favorite movies of all time. And the remake was just... by numbers. It's not that it didn't have a few good people in it or a little bit of atmosphere, but it just didn't capture. It's one of those cases where remaking something, you really just taken the name and the basic scenario and nothing that actually made the original one special. Yeah. So Black Christmas the worst and The Thing the best. What about you, Ronald? Best remake, worst remake.
I want to
Look at this image of Freddy.
Yeah, it looks like Snoke.
Yeah, he really does. You're absolutely right. Now that you know what Snoke looks
Now
like.
we know Snoke's secret origin. He's a time-traveling child rapist.
this. Damn, it's kind of prequel / remake. I don't know if it falls under horror.
If it's in that realm of like you're mentioning it in this genre sense, that's valid. I trust you, Ronald.
Are you gonna say like? What are you gonna say? Like the Ghostbusters remake?
No, I don't know if it's a remake. It has the same
Why don't
sort
you
of
say
premise.
it?
Prometheus to me.
Well, that's a sequel. Prequel. That's a prequel.
Sequel. Okay.
It's a prequel.
Well, since we're going to that, okay. The most we talked about it earlier, but the sequel. I love the Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, that was one that I thought of too.
That's in there, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It's amazing.
What was that?
It's amazing.
It shouldn't have been good as it was, and somehow it worked.
Well, how did they make it good without doing anything? Maybe this is the answer. They didn't try to repeat anything that made the Sam Raimi good. I mean, maybe they did a few things that were like, this scene is the equivalent of that.
Yeah,
but they did not
place-
like take a particular moment and say, let's do just the modern version of it. It was like they were spinning off on the idea of what's a new take on this idea of a character who just takes a beating.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that was kind of in common, is that at the end of the movie, the girl in the remake has taken a beating the same way that Bruce Campbell did in the first one.
So yeah,
That's a good choice.
That's in that same group.
least necessary was the Suspiria.
Okay. I'll go there with you.
Watching Steve squirm.
That was necessary, though.
There was something very special.
That was like therapeutic.
But because there's
Because I would be sitting there watching it, and I think you and I were chuckling at the same, like we were during the movie chuckling, and at the end of the movie we talked about it. It's like we both were saying, like, I was chuckling thinking of Steve having to watch this.
we're all very passionate movie watchers.
Yes.
But there's something about watching Steve melt in his seat, but not the good melting. Just like, what am I watching? And then the last scene was horse shit. Like, it just got so bad.
And then you joined me.
At the end, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I have to leave. Yeah, it was bad, man.
I mean, I thought that was an interesting movie,
God.
but what an experience I never need to have again.
Yes,
Like a weight, and I don't mean that in the sense of creepy, disturbing.
No,
I mean in the sense of like I felt like it was kind of dicking around with my time at a certain point. I just thought like, what is this movie? Even though I've read enough to know that there is something under the hood, but I feel like it just felt unnecessary is a great word for that movie.
The like Nicholas Winding Refn thing that he does, it's worse than that. It's worse than that idea if he's like, okay, I don't want to make something like the last thing I made. I'm gonna abandon this. It was worse. They're like, this is a already crazy movie, and I'm gonna worsen it. I'm gonna make everything about it good. That was good. I'm not gonna have any music in it, any creepy music in it. It's just gonna be terrible towards the end. Just throwing, because the first half felt really good. Honestly,
It was interesting.
yeah, I was okay with it. I was okay with the first half of it.
That one scene is still nightmare fueled for me.
Yeah,
the one scene where the sort of
Girls
where they're doing something that's controlling the girl, and it's like a dance that's taking over and she's breaking her body with the dance, and then like the way that after that she's just laying there and she's still alive, and she's like losing control of her bowels, and then they don't kill her, they just hook her with those weird curved hooks, and they carry her off somewhere. Like that was creepy and disturbing, but almost so much so that it kind of felt like this movie doesn't feel like it's supporting that kind of moment. Like I felt like the movie just went past that, and then I was supposed to like forget that happened or something. I don't know, but yeah, Suspiria. We never really talked about it on the show, but I know that we had a pretty interesting conversation after the movie.
There was just a level of disgust after it that we just couldn't.
Yeah.
What do you another one that comes to mind for successful, and one of my favorite is Matt Reeves's Let Me In.
Oh, I was going to say that one. Yeah.
Have you seen that? The Let the Right One In remake, the U.S. version.
I did.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I love that.
It was so faithful that it almost feels like if you liked it's. I could see people thinking, "Why do this?" But I think we talked about this one on the show before. For audiences that don't know foreign films, that don't know indie films, that don't want to read subtitles, whatever thing you want to say, that was a great way of pulling that story off for those audiences. Like you don't necessarily need it, but two great movies for the price of one. I'm not going to complain too much about.
That was one of those remakes within 2 years of the movie being made.
A couple years.
And
like the American version remake is a different genre than like the going back years later. Yeah. If we're talking in the sort of schlockier vein, I also thought the Friday the 13th reboot was pretty good.
I love it. I think it's great.
Like particularly the Jason in that.
The same director as Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Derek Mears also who plays
what
Jason
year did
in
that
that.
one come out?
Is the Swamp? Did you watch the DC Swamp Thing series?
The first episode, and I loved it.
I heard about it, and then it got canceled.
It got canceled like after the first episode.
But it was like a budget thing. It wasn't.
But they like shot the whole like series.
That bums me out because Derek Mears is such a good guy.
He's amazing,
and he loves this genre stuff.
He's like
and
such
he puts
a fan.
so much into it. I don't know if you guys watched the Twin Peaks Return, but he had a great scene in that.
So much practical stuff in that Swamp Thing show that just blew my mind.
Yeah, it was good.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I really enjoyed it.
But yeah, to your point, he's great as Jason.
Yeah.
Like how big and physical and just like fast and like...
And I like that take on him, the survivalist version of it. Like it was a good take on the character.
What year did that come out?
God.
I don't know.
8 years ago now or something like that?
I was going to say 2009.
Yeah.
Something. I would say more than... Yeah, at least probably 2009. Mm-hmm. 2009.
I guess I went for the crackle again.
Tried and true.
I'm a crackle man.
2009.
Oh, this was something, we never got to talk about this on the show, but we talked about the first one so much and our anticipation for this movie. This one just says, It Chapter 2, discuss. So let's just give a few minutes.
Discuss or disgust?
Discuss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I still didn't see it.
Well, we'll talk just for a few minutes about our general feelings about it.
I still didn't see it. And it wasn't like I didn't want to see it. It happened during a really... So, I was in... that was a wedding, the Singapore wedding.
You were traveling. I was in the middle of this, the one of the worst phases of this remodel.
Yeah.
Steve was doing God knows what, probably just walking down the street skipping.
Went to Singapore and Japan. He had plenty of time to go to the movies. It's just they didn't have it in Asia.
Yeah, it hasn't come out. Or
I was fucking furious.
What was in the theaters over there?
Stuff from so it was Endgame.
Damn, still playing.
Yeah, like it was brand new.
They literally said, "This is it. This is the end of movies."
Yeah, so it was
the
like
final
Endgame,
film. If you ask Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, it is the end of movies.
It's such a good quote. Such a terrible thing to say, though.
I think that the opinion is not surprising. It doesn't surprise me that Scorsese doesn't get it. He's old, and it doesn't. But the notion, this whole point where you take, I'm not a fan of this, and that turns into this is evil garbage.
Right.
Is what's weird to me is because Scorsese and Coppola talk about these movies like they don't have characters in them, like they don't have narratives, like they don't have memorable emotional beats, and all of that is bullshit. You can say I don't like it, it's noisy, it's got CGI, it's all the same. Another one comes out every 5 minutes. You can say all that and be, somewhere within the realm of a valid critique of a, like you said, Ronald, in a recent text conversation, an oversaturation that may be happening. But you can't say they're not movies. You can't say they're not stories.
Is crazy.
And that they don't convey something to audiences. Audiences don't go see them because they're dumb and cynical. Audiences like something about these movies. And the reason people love Goodfellas and Mean Streets is not because it's cinema. It's because they're good fucking movies that people like.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how you can have your head so far up your own ass that you're not remembering that when you came out, people thought what you were doing was weird shit too. Now, Marvel... superhero movies in general, it is like big establishment entertainment, and sometimes we are like cheering for Disney is like cheering for the military industrial complex or something. It is questionable, but the movies that are being made to say that they're not real stories to me just seems like you're trolling on a cultural level, and that's fine. Those guys can have those opinions. I have stayed out of that debate, but I do sort of roll my eyes when another old guy stands up to say, Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola,
said there was
they have all come out and said these superhero movies are a problem, but particularly Spielberg, and they're all buddies with Lucas. Like,
that's what my point was. Like, they don't like when we were having that text message thread. It was like, yeah, that is the elephant in the room. Like, your buddy, like, arguably made the most fantastical version of a big property.
And the movie that a lot of people will point to as the beginning of this blockbuster mentality.
Sure.
Star Wars is like ground zero for big movies. And if it's the studios that don't know how to market smaller films or don't know how to get audiences interested in them, that's a different conversation, too. That's not a problem. That's not Captain America's fault,
No, not at all. That's nuts.
So It Chapter 2. Let's just take a couple minutes, Steve. Give your mighty minute review of It Chapter 2.
I really liked it.
Okay,
I really did.
Good.
It's just kind of a little bit of a big mess in places. Like it's just there's so much going on, And there's so many characters, there's so many big personalities, big actors in this movie that like you can kind of feel at times the need to have, scenes that are a bit repetitious that maybe don't need to be there if it was maybe a lesser known actor, but you need to give the scene to Bill Hader, to Jessica Chastain, to James McAvoy, whatever. But that's like the biggest complaint I can really have about the movie is that it's a big movie. It feels long. I didn't really feel the length. It is a long movie though, but I think that is really a product of some of this repetition that you and I talked about a little bit a couple weeks ago. But it's like,
yeah, Ronald, when we were going to do that phoner and it didn't work out, Steve and I had a little phone conversation about it, chapter 2.
Okay.
But like, you have these
There's that
lead
middle
characters,
section of the movie where it's...
They each go through the same thing, and it's got to show each character doing it. It's like, I don't know that your audience needs that.
Right.
Well, you realize after like the second one ends and you go into the third, you're going like...
It's going to happen.
Oh, we're going to do all 6.
Yeah.
They're even like saying you should all split up and wander around and see what memory comes to you, because people are... They're supposed to all find like a talisman or an artifact of some sort. That will be a totem, right? That they can use, that's like a memory trigger for them that they can use against Pennywise, because when they were kids and they left town, everybody who left forgot. And the only person who remembers what happened is Mike, who stayed in town. Once everybody gets together and you see the little dynamics, like Bill Hader and James Ransome have a fun dynamic.
Yeah, they're good together.
James Ransome actually has some fun, interesting, odd moments in the movie to pull off.
Yeah.
James McAvoy is good, but doesn't really do anything special. Jessica Chastain is kind of what you expect. But Bill Hader really came out as like the one who you go, oh yeah, he's really doing something. This movie may be a weird mess, but he's the guy whose career is taking a step forward with this movie and this portrayal.
For sure.
And when the advance word came out and everybody was talking about how good he was, I thought, oh, he must be really great. And the truth is, he's pretty good. The movie is just such a mess that if you're going to point, you're going to look around and point to an element that works. Bill Hader is one of the big elements. Dang. I also think, though, that is it Bill Skarsgård? Is that his name? His performance as Pennywise really is something special.
It is.
And the character of Pennywise leaks through. There's scenes in this movie where he's a weird, like, he's worth looking into as just a movie monster, because he's got a personality and he's a being, but he has so many qualities of like pure fear.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting performance, and Pennywise as a character is one of my other favorite elements of the movie.
Yeah.
But in general, it did feel like the cultural conversation, like if it had been great, I think that it would have been like a 1-2 punch that people would be still talking about. But I feel like people are already sort of forgetting. Oh, yeah. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, where it ends and people go, oh, okay, and they move on to the next thing, as opposed to going, oh my God, kind of reverberating from it. So.
Right.
Hate to say this.
What?
But once it comes on Netflix, I think people are going to go, man, it's just one of those things, man. Some things age better.
Well, keep in mind, we are talking about a movie that made over $200 million.
Oh,
so it's
of course.
still,
it's
still
we're two guys that really liked
audience.
it. Just explaining why we didn't do backflips out of the theater.
Right, and I did not.
It just is one of those things where it may extend.
And it also benefits, the first one benefits from not having to like kind of bounce between two timelines.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with 6 kid characters that you still see flashbacks of. You have the 6 adult characters that are the same character but adults. Mm-hmm. So that's another level of like how much is going on in this movie that I feel like maybe kind of bogged it down a little bit. But like John said, Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård's great. There's some really great like kill sequences in the movie.
The isolated sort of kills that don't even have anything to do with the main characters are some of the best parts of the movie. Yeah. It made me actually think I would watch a Pennywise movie.
Right, sure.
I mean, as strange as that is to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I did really like it. It's just it's just not in the same level of the first chapter.
In the book, the kid stuff and the adult stuff is intertwined.
Yeah.
When they broke it down into 2 movies and they put most of the kid stuff in the first movie, they create a weird dynamic where the kids come back as in flashback form in the second movie. And that's okay, but they've done a lot. I mean, we're not even going to really get into the digital de-aging or whatever they've done to make kids who are 15 look like they're 13, which is a very strange thing to do. But you have to
so they're
pitch
doing
voices
that with
up.
kids.
They did it in this one.
And occasionally you get a weird face, weird chin, weird throat, whatever thing going on with kids.
That with John Goodman.
Pitch shifting their voices.
Yeah.
They did that with John Goodman and the Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
in
those flashbacks.
In his face, I'm like, what's up with this?
But because that structure, because they broke it down, now the adult story is not mixed in with the kid's story. It's like a redo of the kid's story. So now it feels like they learn a lesson at the end of the first movie that allows them to beat Pennywise. And then in the second movie, they learn the same lesson again and beat him in pretty much the same way again. It just feels like that adaptation choice hurt the adult story because even though they forgot, and we didn't forget.
We didn't forget. We actually were looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, we actually remembered. Yeah, we wanted to see what would they do this time.
Damn.
No, I think you'll like it. So
we'll check it out.
All right, your last candy of the night, Ronald.
All right. What's your most noteworthy Halloween costume ever? Sidebar, best, worst candy. You know, I didn't dress up much for Halloween.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but I'm slightly obsessed with Spider-Man. And I had this, you know, those cheapo Spider-Man costumes that you get at, like, well, I guess it was Woolworth at the time.
Like in the box with the cellophane window on the front of it.
And it's got the plastic mask. Like a little plastic sheet.
Like a trash bag sheet.
It's like folded over.
Yes.
So I had Spider-Man, and I just remember how proud I was to put that mask on. Mm-hmm. And I knew that the slits were they were big enough for my eyes horizontally, but vertically it just went
your scope was like a thin line. You're Cyclops.
And I just remember walking in my grandmother's neighborhood and just feeling like I saw better costumes. I was like, but I look better in this mask.
Yeah.
And I just remember how
they don't realize I am Spider-Man. This is not a costume.
Yes, they don't understand. I'm when I do this, things are coming out of my hand.
Thwip.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably my favorite candy. Such an old people's candy, and it has to do with my grandma. Is peanut chews, man.
Oh, I love peanut chews.
Peanut chews are a classic. Yeah.
So good.
Original ones are vegan.
You told me this before.
That chocolate is
you
actually
brought them to, I think, a recording session before and told us that.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
We still, you know, every once in a while when we get a sweet tooth, I will buy massive amounts.
She had like in a bowl in her house. Your grandmother.
Yes. So we would go to she'd get them, and we would devour them. But she'd also send me across the street to get them when we wanted more.
I feel like my grandmother. I feel like I have an association the same. Like they always had this like stained brown glass like candy jar, and like it was always like 70% full of peanut chews and 30% the rest.
That sounds
because my grandfather like loved peanut chews. So I was like, that's a good memory.
Yeah. So I'd sweep for $1, and then I'd go get 20 peanut chews,
awesome.
and then I'd get like a big cup of water, and I'd eat them all in one go, and I'd not want to eat for the rest of the day.
Sure.
So yeah.
What's the least favorite candy?
Those they look like Mike and Ike's, but they have the red in the middle. Good something.
Good and Plenty's?
Fuck, they make me sick, man. I had them one time when we were going
One
down
part
to
of that name
Carolinas.
is accurate.
Yeah.
There's plenty of that shit.
Yeah.
It's not good.
They're disgusting.
Yeah, they are terrible.
Traveling down south, they didn't have peanut chews, so I was like, let me just get Good and Plenty, right? On the way to South Carolina.
That was the only other option?
Yeah, they didn't have Mike and Ike's.
How weird is that your best candy and your worst candy were the only two options
so
for
like,
candy?
I was like, I wanted
Someone
Mike
knew you were coming.
Yeah, so I tasted it, and it was hot, and it just made me sick.
Yeah.
And I always associate Good and Plenty with nausea.
Yeah.
Yikes.
All right, Steve.
Probably my best Halloween costume was when I was more in my early adult years. I was Napoleon Dynamite one year. when I was in the process, when I was in the middle of growing my hair out, like before I had like long curly hair, I was in this weird when my hair
Listeners,
grows
Steve
out.
used to look. Now he's got this respectable kind of updo.
Yeah.
But he used to have this lion mane.
Yes, I did. And that transition though was very awkward because my hair is super thick and wavy.
You may notice I live in that transition between short hair and long hair.
But it was great at that time of year to just blow it out and let it curl and go nuts and be Napoleon Dynamite. Mm-hmm. And having worked in the ad at that ad agency for the studios at the time that came out, we had all the merch. So I had like the pager for president. I got the moon boots that he wore, and I just was able to do. And like one of my favorite pictures I have of any Halloween costume really was that picture because I just like went all in on it and like was talking like him all night. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun.
When you have a character that you can embody like that, it's fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's really cool, man.
And what about candies? What's your best and worst?
I think best is probably just like a Reese cup, like Reese's. chocolate peanut butter. It's like
So
it's
consistently
heaven sent.
good.
I'm pretty vanilla too with that. Like any
God,
Reese's product. Like every now and then you'll see like the Fun Size Fast Break.
Oh, yeah.
I have to admit that's like such a special
So
thing.
good.
But the holiday ones, especially special, because there's more.
The ratio.
The ratio is crazy for those.
Yeah.
It's going towards good.
Yes, so much peanut butter.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So much peanut butter.
So that's hands down my favorite. I mean, there's probably no real competition for that. But
Yeah.
least favorite Halloween candy. Well, I don't know. I guess crackles.
Yeah.
I never really love crackles.
Not
No,
a fan of
man.
the rice and the chocolate.
The rice. No, I guess not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nothing else really jumps to mind.
You're
but
not down
having-
with Snap, Crackle, or Pop.
Snap is okay, but like the other two, fuck those guys.
Got lame friends.
Yeah, he needs to get better friends.
God dang it.
But yeah, I don't know. Crackle, because I saw that, and I don't know, nothing else is jumping out to me because I'm a pretty equal opportunity when it comes to eating candy. Mm-hmm. But
Well, I'll second the Reese's, anything Reese's oriented.
Yeah.
That's the big win. Like a Nutrageous, like a
my
fun
God.
size Nutrageous.
When Nutrageous first came out,
I actually
almost
experienced
fainted.
Nutrageous over it.
so good. What? Crazy
yeah,
combination.
they're amazing.
And
Yeah.
then least favorite, this isn't strictly Halloween, but anytime I think something's going to be cherry flavored and it turns out to be cinnamon flavored, I want to fucking murder people.
Tell me more about that scenario.
Please.
It's red. It's like a piece of candy and it's red. And you pick it up
Yeah.
thinking, oh, this is going to be cherry flavored. And you put it in and you get that hot cinnamon
interesting.
flavor. I don't like it.
I don't like the syrup. You like that, like cough syrup, cherry flavor?
It's less so that I'm all for the cherry flavor as that I really hate the cinnamon flavoring. Like to me, that feels like a bait and switch.
I've never had anything besides those cinnamon candies that tasted like that.
Cinnamon?
It's like, what is that flavor? It's this imaginary flavor that.
But honestly, Good and Plenty is probably one of the worst
Oh,
in
it
general
is the
because the
worst.
name is like, and it's been around so long, you just assume, oh, it's going to have some
Yeah.
classic candy flavor to it. But it's almost like cinnamon licorice or something. It's
How do you
not
feel about
good.
Milk Duds?
You know, I've enjoyed a Milk Dud, but like halfway into eating one, you're like, what am I doing to
Yeah.
myself?
That's the other one that came to mind. Like I was trying to picture like when we would go through our loot of Halloween night, like what we'd have at the end of the night, and I can like vividly remember always giving away the Milk Dud little bags you'd get, you know.
Or box. It's like a box that's got two in it
Oh,
or
okay,
whatever.
yeah.
Too fucking dry. You have a little bit
Yeah.
of chocolate, a lot of dryness. What?
And then
What
you're
is
sitting there
that?
for like a
Reese's-
week chewing
Reese's
on
you
it.
love because the peanut butter is nice and moist and
Yeah.
great and salty as shit. By the
Yeah,
way,
so good.
When I got away from it and then went back to it, I was like, this is the saltiest candy I've ever had. in my
Oh,
life.
really?
Very salty.
Oh wow.
Take like a week.
Not
to
gonna
wait.
happen.
Probably not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen, buddy.
Take like a week away from it and then go back. It still tastes.
No, you're
good, man.
probably right.
It's intense.
I don't know. Yeah, they just popped into my mind too.
Milk duds
I
are
never- I never
so
really been a
dry.
fan.
But the best costume or most memorable for me might be, it was older. When I was a kid, I had a few good years where it's like, okay, Dracula or
Sure.
or Han Solo or whatever. But most memorable would be, it was right after Nikki and I started dating, and there was a work party. We worked at a restaurant, and there was a work party that we didn't really want to go to, but we kind of wanted to go to. And so we dressed up as ninjas, like full head to toe. Like I went and bought ninja regalia for us.
Who hasn't been a ninja?
And
at
we
some
parked
point?
like a few blocks away from the party and actually snuck up to the party, like through the alleys and the bushes.
Oh,
And
man.
went into the party and didn't speak while we were there and didn't tell anyone who we were. And some people could tell, but some people couldn't because it was like a restaurant. A bunch of people worked there. People didn't know for sure who was there. And we just kind of, a few people wanted to come up and like pick a fight and like mime like they were fighting with us or whatever. And we would just kind of run to another room. And while I was there, I saw this woman that I had been dating before I met Nikki sitting there with some like bros. And like Jimmy Buffett was on the stereo and they were all like singing along to like Let's Get Drunk and Screw or whatever, some song. And it was such a great moment, like seeing her in that situation and her not knowing it was me. I mean, honestly, it was probably the most slasher moment for me, which would be like watching someone and knowing they don't know who I am, and me looking at them going like, "Oh man, I dodged a bullet." And then Nikki and I just we ran out of there, and then like did like cartwheels and flips on the way to the car. I mean, we were having fun being little nerds, but it was funny.
sounds
I
fun,
think days
man.
later people realized who we were, but it wasn't like a situation where everybody knew everybody by name so well.
Oh, yeah,
if there was
yeah.
somebody who worked opposite shifts, they wouldn't have known. So there was
Sure.
a bunch of coworkers there.
That sounds really fun.
But the fun part was that we deliberately parked a few blocks away and then like snuck up and like through the bushes and stuff. I really wanted to seem super fun when I met her, Ronald. I had a feeling if I seemed fun, she might stay with me.
It sounds like it worked out.
It was 24 years ago. Yes, we lived together. So
Good
yeah,
thing you followed
That's
that.
really
Yeah.
cool.
good thing I bought those ninja outfits. All right, Steve, you want to pull your last slip au papier?
Oh man, that's a good story, man. That's like a really good story.
Scariest or creepiest movie that isn't considered to be a horror film? Scariest or creepiest movie? So I'm going again. Pure gut. First thing comes to mind. I don't find it to be that scary or creepy, but a lot of people talk about it, and I can definitely see the point. But is it called The Witches? The Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
It's like a kids movie. Fantastic fantasy kids movie about witches. Is that considered a horror movie? No, right?
I don't think so.
That movie is creepy as shit. Like when they turn into witches and like the changeling piece of like their human form to witch form, and like having like a full kid cast, is very creepy. And I only think about it popped in my mind immediately. And I read something pretty recently about something similar to this, like kids movies that really aren't for kids. And I remember watching it all the time when I was a kid, like too much. And it probably explains a lot about me. But I could see like some of my friends who are a little more apprehensive about what they show their kids. Like if their child accidentally saw this, it would probably like ruin them forever. Because there's some pretty disturbing parts in that movie when the witches come out. But yeah, I don't know what year that came out, but The Witches. It's like it's based on like a
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl book.
Yeah.
Book.
First one that came to mind for me, and this might be super middle of the road, but Silence of the Lambs. It's not widely considered a horror film. It's always called a thriller, and I think it's considered sort of like elevated compared to horror fare. But it's got some really, really scary moments in it that are as scary as anything from your scariest horror movie. Like that scene where she's in the dark and he's watching her with the infrared goggles, and just what she finds in the bathroom downstairs at that house, and every scene with Buffalo Bill, as a matter of fact, is pretty terrifying. So I think Silence of the Lambs might be the creepiest. I can think of other scenes, moments in movies like that comedy from the 80s, 9 to 5, with Dolly Parton and Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. I was so young when I watched it. There's a scene in that where, like, I think Jane Fonda is house sitting for somebody, and like her ex-husband comes around to try to put the moves on her, but there's just a few shots from outside the house looking in the window that's made it to look like there's a stalker or somebody breaking in, but it's in the middle of a comedy. It's not like a prolonged sequence, and the movie doesn't have any other scenes like that. But when I was little and I saw that scene, it just stuck with me. Just the notion of someone like lurking around and looking in the window and stuff. So yeah, there's a scene in 9 to 5 that creeped me out when I was a kid. But I don't think the whole movie I would put in that category, but definitely Silence of the Lambs. What about you, Ronald? Is there a non-horror movie that gets you?
Very recently, Joker.
Okay. So how do you feel about Joker? It got you?
The pace of it was, felt like a slice of life kind of movie. But I think it's one of the better comic book movies I've ever seen. I think it was well acted. I think the development of the character was really cool. The twist was done really well. I mean, I'm pretty keen on this type of twist, and I'm like, I know when it's gonna happen before it happens. But this time when they did it, I was like, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
And I have
he's phenomenal in it.
He is, man, the stuff he does with his body.
It's so weird to me that people were skeptical of that aspect, because that was the main thing that made me buy into this idea from the start, more so than Todd Phillips or Martin Scorsese or anything as far as the names that were attached early. But like, but just him in almost anything is interesting. But him turning in this type of role, it just didn't sound that risky at all to me. It sounded like something he could easily do. And I know a lot of people were saying like, I can't believe this movie's being made. Maybe for some reason it is an outlier, but it's not that hard to imagine that since he kind of flirted with doing Doctor Strange for Marvel, he's not above doing a genre thing. I just don't think he wants to be in a 6-picture deal where he's expected to be hanging on a wire in front of a green screen for an indeterminate amount of time. So
one thing I did like about this, so I'm a pretty big fan of Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker is more toward the cool Joker some of the Jokers that have existed. This is kill Robin with a crowbar Joker, the one that was like, I mean, another thing that was really interesting about all the versions of the Jokers that I like is he wasn't funny.
Yeah,
he was not funny at all. Like he would make jokes and was the furthest thing from funny. Heath Ledger was really good and really funny and really cool, and I was like, I want to hang out with this Joker.
Doesn't this now become?
I want to hang out with this Joker.
Oddly enough, this character is now one of the more iconic characters in our culture. Like that, we keep coming back to it, and that it's like people are still putting Heath Ledger on a pedestal, but making room for this, and people are still saying, Jack Nicholson was actually the best, and a lot of people are saying no, Mark Hamill's cartoon version is the best, and a lot of people saying even now saying to a certain version, a certain like era's version of it, that Cesar Romero from the old Batman show, a lot of people love that version. It's amazing that there's so many different versions of the character that people love, and yet nobody likes the Jared Leto version.
Yeah. there would be no crazy version of them if it weren't for Cesar Romero. That commitment to being nuts.
Well, that version is the clown version.
Yeah.
And we've now seen this version who's like the scuzzy terrorist version, and now we've got this guy who's like just a damaged individual, Yeah. So.
And I want to give like a close second to like a horror film thing, since you named it a second. Sicario.
Oh yeah.
Sicario felt like when we saw that in the theater, it felt like a horror film.
Oh yeah, totally. The dread.
Amount of dread, the bodies in the
bodies in the walls so early in the movie is
is scary. It's like a different kind of horror. Like it felt like real life. I could go to a place and not come back alive. It's just.
A lot of people say that movie is like a right-wing fantasy of what it's really like in Mexico. But I honestly, as much as I loved that movie, I never thought like, oh, this is a complete picture of Mexico. I mean, maybe if I saw it now, I would see that. But at the time I saw it, I didn't feel like I was being encouraged to think this is Mexico. No. What I saw was more something that was depicting that the border between the United States and Mexico is a flashpoint for all this crazy drug trade. But I didn't see it as it's a Mexican thing versus American thing.
Yeah, and I was gathering that some of a lot of the people that had lost their lives, sure there were some innocent people involved, but a lot of these people were like competition and. People that were closely involved in the drug trade. A lot of those people that died. I wasn't like everybody comes here and gets decapitated or hung on a wall. Like that's not what I thought. But I did think if you were to function where these transactions were going down.
Yeah, if you're Emily Blunt and you're like new to this job and this is going to be your milieu that you're working in, right?
Yeah. And I thought that was.
No, that's a good choice. Really, really scary. Really creepy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the last. I think this is it. The last piece of candy. This is Mr. Goodbar. Oh, this is a good one to end on. Your paper is now required for you again.
Cool. Paper.
This is good. This is kind of like if we were doing sort of like ending the night with kind of like the best picture or what's the major award that we can offer on our Halloween episode. Rate them. These are slasher characters. Rate Angela from Sleepaway Camp, Chucky, Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and our friend The Shape, or more commonly known as Michael Myers. All right. The results are in. Price Walker-House Schmooper is proud to announce, in ascending order, we've rated our slashers. Angela from Sleepaway Camp, bringing up the rear.
Okay.
Chucky, just coming just above her, but still pretty far down. Leatherface, then Freddy, and then Jason, and we're almost to the top. It's our boy Michael Myers, the most primally scary of this whole bunch, I think, because there's not much to him, especially in the first movie. He doesn't crack wise. He doesn't have a crazy backstory. There's not this. It's not a whodunit. We know who he is. We don't know why he does it. They've tried to answer that question in recent movies, and that seems to be still fascinating to different directors. But the best version to me of The Shape, of Michael Myers, is the boogeyman. The no answers, no explanation.
Yeah.
He's just wrong. He shouldn't be there. Like when I think the scariest thing is like coming around the corner in your house and there's just a dude standing there who shouldn't be there. Michael Myers, that blank face mask,
It's true.
Everything about that just is like, this is the other. This is that thing you don't want to see looking in your window at night kind of thing. So
yeah. Good choices, guys.
All right, fellers. Well, that's how Movie Schmovie does Halloween in 2019, and that rhymed.
Good job, John.
Yeah,
you did it, man.
Those are really good.
I knew you could bring that back around to a rhyme. You did it. I knew it. It's good to be back and recording again, man. I know that for sure.
It is.
And
I'm glad that we're back.
We're gonna bank 1 or 2 or 3
Yeah.
and make sure we try to keep some sort of schedule going here.
We're going to try to be bi-weekly or twice a month again.
Keep
for a
something
while.
like that
Yeah.
going would be nice.
Because we legitimately missed this. We've had various exchanges about it.
Right.
Life has been busy, but we are now back in the basement, which is not a construction site for the first time in almost a year. And I will be writing a memoir about this period, but until then, we can just say we're back, and it's good to see you guys face to face.
Yeah, it's glad to be back. It's glad to be back. It's good to be back.
It's glad to be back.
It's glad to be back.
Referring to yourself in the third person as an it.
As an it.
Yeah.
This unit is glad to be back.
Moviesmovie.com is the site. You can find us on pretty much every podcast platform that's out there. And hopefully, if not, let us know. We'll figure out how to get onto that, the one that we're not on, if it exists. Moviesmovie@gmail.com, but Facebook.com/moviesmovie is probably the best chance to interact if you have ideas for podcasts, episodes that we might want to do, or if you just want to kind of tell us what you thought of this episode, you can comment there, or you can leave a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts. It would be greatly appreciated. And we'll be back in a couple weeks, like John teased earlier, to talk a little bit about our top movie robots.
Yes, in celebration of the new Terminator film,
which will be coming out the week that we drop that episode.
Actually, I think it might come out the week before. Doesn't it come out on the 1st? I think it comes out on the 1st. Our next episode is the 8th.
Okay, that math works. Sure.
I think.
It'll be something in time with Terminator.
Yes.
Give you a chance to watch it, maybe.
Right.
And then, then listen to what we have to say. But as always, you made our day. Thanks.
Bye.